Thank you so much, Sarah. Oh, got it. Awesome. So welcome everyone. Hello, I'm your host for today, as well as Sarah, but my name is Mauricio Gutierrez. I am the Transfer Student Center Program Coordinator, recent alum, and it's glad to be here serving transfer students and I see a lot of repeated faces here from the previous session. So welcome back. Welcome back. So, and Sarah, could you introduce yourself as well?
Yes, thank you all so much for joining us. Sarah Moe, she, her, and hers, and I'm the Assistant Director of the Transfer Student Center. I will pass it to Miriam.
Hi everyone, my name is Miriam Tooney. I am a communications coordinator at the Transfer Student Center. My pronouns are she and her. My major is international development studies. And I would say my favorite course I've taken at UCLA so far. I think it would be like one of those like extracurricular courses I took. It was 1001 Nights. So it was really fun to like take that class. And I actually met my best friend there. So yeah, pass it to Darlene.
Hi everyone, my name is Darlene. I'm one of the student staff here at the Transfer Student Center. My pronouns are she, her, hers. My major is in psychology and I transferred from College of the Canyons, and a favorite course I've taken here at UCLA is developmental psychology.
Awesome. Thank you so much. So just to repeat, this format for today will be a few questions from my end to the returning transfer students, as well as at the end, we'll give the opportunity for the audience. So anyone in attendance to ask them any questions. So let's start off by going over the first question. So we know folks are often nervous about the quarter system. Obviously, it's a little bit of an intricate system to navigate, but regarding this quarter system at UCLA, share how you felt about being on the quarter system and what the adjustment was like for you. So we can start with Miriam and then go to Darlene.
For sure, yeah, the quarter system sounds daunting more than it really is. I would say when I first got into the quarter system, I was really worried about how fast it would be going. I would say it once you get your first class in, and then once like that first month kind of rolls by, I think you kind of just like start getting into it. And it's more about like time management, I would say. The quarter system is definitely doable. So it's just all about like making sure that your week is like well divided. And I'll talk about like resources more later about like how you can be more time manageable, I guess, with the quarter system. But I would say it's really much time management heavy. But other than that, I think anyone could really do it, as long as like, you know, you divide your time well and everything. But yeah.
To add on to what Miriam says, it is doable. I know like in the beginning, I was really nervous because I wasn't sure how it's going to go, but I think like after the first 2 to 3 weeks for me personally, it got more manageable and easier to understand how things work here. Time management really is an important skill to have. I know, like for me, I like to write things down physically. So I have a planner and I tend to use it when I'm like writing down like important deadlines for exams and assignments. So I would say that it is doable. You can do it.
Awesome. Thank you so much. So with that, that's a perfect segue actually to the second question. So how did you manage your time to meet your academic needs? And then what tools or platforms were helpful? Go ahead, Mariam.
Yeah. So I love scheduling. Like that was one of the things that really like got like really heavy for me. So I do use an app called TickTick. And I can write it in the chat. I think it's like TIK or TIC. But it's basically a great app that I have on my laptop and on my phone. The best thing that I recommend when it comes to like scheduling or like time management is having it on all your devices. Because that really helped me is just making sure that like my phone will like tell me, okay, today you're gonna read like these two articles and like try getting this discussion done or like at least started. And then just having that as like a weekly basis really did help me make sure that I had all my assignments in, make sure that I had like all the readings that I needed to do pretty much done or at least skimmed. And so I would recommend that app, TickTick, or any app that really just is user friendly for all devices, that'll help you just kind of have a virtual like checklist. Because sometimes I'm not much of a writer by hand. Sometimes I am, but not always. So typing is just really fast and easy for me. So just having like a checklist kind of app really does help. And then putting everything on calendar. I use iCal. Some people use Google Calendar. That's always really helpful for me, is just having those like at least reoccurring, because sometimes you'll have classes that are like reoccurring discussions or reoccurring essays or whatever. So those are really helpful to just have on your calendar, or at least something that you see every day. But yeah, and then just taking it easy and trying to divide it. I remember when I first started, I tried reading like 6 articles in one day, and I was like brain dead by like article 3. I was just like, I couldn't do it. And my major is like really reading heavy, and it's all about case studies. So biggest advice is just try to divide your time, and like know that it's gonna get done. Like it's gonna get done, but it's gonna take some time to do so. As long as you can like manage through the week, you're gonna be fine. And so at least like my recommendation, my capacity is at least 2 articles a day or something like that, if I can. But yeah, and just like seeing your week is like really helpful. So I would recommend those apps and all that.
Okay, for me personally, I like, as I mentioned earlier, I love writing things out. I don't trust myself in terms of like typing something down, because I have to physically write it out in order for me to remember it. So that's why I use a planner, and then sometimes I use sticky notes to help emphasize what I need to get done for the day. I know like in one of the planners that I have, it's there's like this part in the top where it says top 3 things to do for this week. And I really use that, especially for important exams coming up or projects I have to get done at the center. But I did try using Google Calendar, and I've heard of Notion as well to help like organize your assignments and stuff. But personally, it didn't work for me. But I did try to like keep an open mind while like looking into different methods of how to manage my time, like social wise and with my assignments as well. So I would say like if you want, you can try different methods in order to help you figure out like, okay, maybe I don't really want to use a planner. I'd rather use Google Calendar instead to keep track of what I need to do by when. But I would say keep an open mind, try different methods. I know for me, it worked better if I wrote things out. But yeah, that's how it was for me.
Awesome. Thank you so much. So moving on to the third question, what resources at UCLA have been the most helpful for your academic success? And then where are they located, as well as how can folks access them?
Yeah, I was really thinking about this question a lot, and I think I'm gonna answer it a little abstract. My biggest resource that I really use is the libraries. I think they're so useful. If you go to YRL, the Young Research Library, you'll always find me there. I recommend like the 3rd floor and above. They have like these, if you're like the type of person who gets distracted easily, I'm with you. I usually go there because they have like these cubicles, and it's so quiet. Like if I just like put on like my headphones and listen to like study beats or anything like that, because that usually is like what gets me working. And then I'll just be there for like a while, and then just that's my biggest resource really, is just utilizing the libraries, because a lot of times even on their website you'll find a lot of resources. So like the library database, if you need any articles for research papers, highly recommend. If you need help finding research, the librarians are so helpful, and you'll find like all the MLA, APA formatting. If you're doing Chicago, I remember that was like kind of weird for me. So I remember like finding that out, at least through the libraries. And what else? Yeah, I just like highly recommend the libraries. And like once you find your favorite one, like most people stick to it. And it's just like a personality trait. Like some people are like Anderson people, and some people are just like, like South Campus libraries. But I really love IRL. That's my favorite. You'll find like outdoor seating spots. So that's probably my biggest resource. Other resources would probably be GroupMe. Coming in, I didn't even know what GroupMe was, but it's basically like, think of it as like Discord or like Slack, or like a huge group messaging system. And that is a huge like unofficial resource, because you can find a lot of students within your own class. Like you can join the group chat for that class, and that already is a resource in itself, because you can ask other peers, you can actually create study groups from there. You can even just like figure out like what a professor really meant during like a lecture or anything like that. So those two, highly recommend. Yeah.
To add on to what Miriam said in terms of like finding writing resources, like I know the undergrad writing center is like, it's free. Students can use that service for free. And I know you get like an advisor, like a peer advisor, to review like any written assignments you're currently working on, or like essays as well. I would also, I think they're located at, where is it? Kaplan Hall. If you guys have like a maps app on your phone, usually what I would do is just type in the name of the building, and then it'll give you like walking directions from there, like where it's specifically located at. A resource that I frequently use is actually the Career Center. They're located at Strathmore, which is a little bit off campus, but it's not like too much of a walk. They, on their website, they have this resource called VMOC, and it helps grade your resume. It's really great. I love using it. And I know on their website as well, they have different like workshops available. And on their YouTube channel, I found there recently, there's like past recorded meetings of like how to set up your LinkedIn, how to reach out to a professor or faculty member for a letter of recommendation. So it's like pretty much archived footage from what they've used in the past. So if you guys are interested in any of those things, I would recommend looking into their website and and YouTube channel as well. Another resource that I use, actually our center offers like a lot of resources. I don't know if y'all use Instagram, but we have an Instagram at UCLA Transfers, and we post like job opportunities on there, scholarship opportunities, as well like different events going on campus. And before I even got hired here, I would like check to see what was going on campus, and see like if there's anything like relevant that I could apply to. So I recommend that as well. And I know at our center we have a CPO cart. So CPO is the Community Programs Office, and they're located at the Student Activity Center. They have different carts located around campus, and they pretty much offer like free food and snacks to students. So if you ever stop by at our center, we're at, I think it's Kirchhoff 128. That's our room number. Feel free to stop by and say hi and grab some snacks while we're open.
Awesome. Thank you so much. The shameless plugs, they were great. 10 out of 10. Let's see. Let's go on to the fourth question. So in terms of study groups, right? Have you found study groups for classes? And if so, how did you find folks to study with?
Yeah, so as I said, I'm an international development major, which is a really small major, like kind of like a very niche group of people. And so I found myself actually finding the same like cohort basically of people that would go to every single class. And so we all kind of just started to kind of sit near each other throughout every class. And so I think it just led to one of our like political econ classes, which was kind of difficult, but like not too bad. And I think we all kind of just decided to like get together. And so I remember just going up to someone. I was so nervous, and I was like, I went up to someone and I was like, hey, like I've seen you before, like do you want to like do a study group or anything like that, and like maybe we can ask other people to join. I'm not gonna lie, I was sweating so much. I was like so nervous. But everyone is so sweet, by the way. If you're like nervous about coming to UCLA for like the people or anything, everyone is so sweet. And so I remember just like they were also kind of nervous, and they were like, yeah, like let's do it. And I think we just started like a group chat, and we called it like the IDS team, and it was just like a stock market thing or something, just like as like an econ thing. And I think we just went from there, and I think it was really cool. And I think we still kind of use it like in like hopefully inshallah like in the next coming quarter. But we used it for like vocab. We used it to kind of create midterm and final study guides together. We used to like get on Zoom, and then just like every Tuesday night, and it was just like a way to like go over the readings and like the case studies and how we would like argue our points. And so it was really helpful. and I really, really recommend it. And sometimes it's just taking that first step and like saying hi and like being like, hey, I've seen you in my classes before, or like, hey, like we're both in this class. Like, do you want to like, I don't know, start studying together or anything? Or if you know anyone else that would be interested. And I think it's that first move that's always like kind of nerve-wracking, but everyone is super sweet. And I think that's just something that, think of it as like someone else wanted to do that first. So it's almost like you're kind of beating them to it a little bit. But yeah, so most study guides here or study groups are pretty easy to form. But yeah.
Miriam had a great answer to that question. I was just gonna say, I know sometimes I've seen on GroupMe, people asking if they want to do a study group and form one, like to review any midterms or exams that are going to come up soon. And if you do join like different clubs or organizations and you meet someone within your major or a similar major, I'm sure that I know like one of my coworkers, she's a psycho bio major and I'm a psych major, but we've actually taken a couple of courses together at the same time. So once you meet different people and like ask like what Miriam said, like if you're interested in forming a study group, then from there, like that's usually one of the ways that I've seen students go about it. But Miriam is right. Everyone here is really nice.
Awesome. Thank you very much. I made up another question, and I think it'd be helpful for all our incoming students as well. But so in the first week or so, including 0 week, I would include that. So like the first like week or two, what would you recommend our students do? What are like your top 2 to 3 things you recommend all students do within the first week or two at UCLA?
That's a really good question, Mauricio. I can speak about what I did and what kind of helped. What I really recommend is just putting yourself out there and like not in like a hi, like hi, I'm here or something like that. No, just like going to events. So highly recommend going to the Welcome Week events, especially the transfer ones. They're really, really fun. And I met some of my like really close friends through the transfer events. And so I really recommend just going to those, as well as just kind of taking it easy, if that makes sense. Because I was like really, really nervous, and sometimes it's like you can be like a ball of nerves. And so one of the best things I really recommend in those first weeks is just taking that time to like self-accept that you're here, be proud of yourself that you got here, and like just, having that like self what's it called? Like I guess acceptance or like, forgiveness, you know what I mean? If you, maybe didn't go to one event, like don't worry about it. Like there's always going to be more. But like just kind of taking it easy and then just like learning from others and watching. And I like people watched like the first few weeks and just like it's like, okay, like what am I supposed to do? And then like also going to the transfer center, sometimes just hanging out there, you'll like meet new people. And then just like, yeah, just like be in the public, that makes sense, be in the social areas, and you'll eventually find like people to talk to or something like that. But yeah, just like pat yourself on the back and like take your time. It'll all happen. But yeah.
Miriam, you answered that question so perfectly. I don't know like what else to add to that. I mean, it's pretty true. Like I know for me, I'm trying to my best to remember fall quarter and how I did those first 2 weeks besides being nervous. So I'm a commuter student. So one of the things for me is that I have to make sure I have time to rest after commuting. And I had to understand what the commute was like at the times I left campus. And I would just try to take a breather and process my day and then break down what I need to do from there. But I'll also say attend the events. I know there's Welcome Week is next week, so attend the events if you can with how it fits your schedule. And that's usually a great way to start meeting transfer students. And Miriam brought this up too. At the center, we do get a lot of students who visit us frequently. So if you do want to reach out and start talking to them, then that is another way you can start forming friendships too.
Awesome. Thank you very much. Let's open it up to any questions from the audience. So does anyone have any specific questions? You can type it in the chat or unmute yourself.
Hi, I have a question. So I noticed because there's so many opportunities and different things going on and programs to join, like how do you know like how many you should do, or, you know, which ones? Because, you know, getting all this new information, I've been kind of like, of course, picking the ones that seem, you know, welcoming to you personally. But what are your thoughts or feedback on this?
Yeah, I had the same situation where I was like, do I go to everything or do I like what if I miss something, you know? And I would say what's amazing about UCLA is that there's always events. So it's really about you taking your own pace. You know, what's good for you, you know? And don't really like try to overextend yourself. Cause so like I'm an introvert kind of a little bit. But what will happen is like I'll like go to some events and then I'll like really, really want to go to another event, but I just really can't. Like I just can't socially be there. And so one of the best things about UCLA is that every week there's like already like 5 events. So even if you miss some of the welcome week events, there's so many events afterwards that will still allow you to like make new friends, be part of the community. Like I would say all up until finals week there's always events, there's always something to do, and even just like anytime. So I would say it's really based on your own like social and mental well-being and just putting yourself first. That's always the best thing. Yeah, always put your best foot forward when you're like a full cup of water, if that makes sense. Yeah.
I would also add on and just say, like, if you have specific interests, I'm sure UCLA has something for that. I know for me, I've been interested in film for a long time. So I actually found out around fall quarter that they had a film minor, and I was like, let me do it. What do I have to lose? But I would say, like, if you have specific interests, I'm sure, like, I know there's like the enormous activities fair on Tuesday next week. So that's usually a way to like just look around and see what sparks interest in you, but also don't try to like, I know a lot of students try to do a lot so that it looks good on their resume and like for career opportunities, but it's like what Miriam said, you do what's best like for you and your interests as well. Another thing that I didn't mention earlier is that I know a lot of students who stay like in the dorms or apartments off campus, like they get invited to like a lot of events, or they want to specifically check out an event, but they're like, I have to study. Like there's that temptation of wanting to do like as much as you can on campus and attend as many like social events as you can. But you also have to keep in mind like what your education is like and your workload and studying for exams. Like it's okay to say no to things.
Awesome. Thank you very much. Any other questions?
There is one in the chat about
Let's see.
adding a minor. ADP. I was like, do you know what minor that is?
I'm looking it up right now. I think it's applied developmental psychology.
Yeah. I'm trying to think because I know a professor who's actually in charge of that minor. I'm not 100% familiar with like the process. I have heard, yeah, it is a bit like competitive to get in. I'm trying to think though, like, let me reread that question. However, we only have to I would say it doesn't hurt to try. I know like the worst thing, you get a no, but then I know applications open again. I think it's in spring, if I'm remembering correctly. I think they open it like twice during the academic year. But I would recommend like just seeing it like once you start communicating with students, seeing if you can find anyone who's involved with that minor and asking their experience with it. I know one of the professors that is in charge of that minor. I don't know if I can give you her email. And you can ask any questions you may have regarding that minor and any advice she may have. I can put it in the chat actually.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Darlene. Any other questions regarding academics, resources, how to make the most of your time here at UCLA?
I have a question, and then after this one, I'm going to stop the record just so if people are nervous to ask questions while we're recording, you don't have to have that fear. I'm always nervous about it. Talk to us about writing. How have you, I feel like writing, I'll frame it this way. writing is something that spans literally all majors. You know, as someone who was an environmental studies major, I had to write a ton of lab reports, and I was always super nervous about like my own science writing skill level. And then, you know, for non-STEM majors, writing is so important. Have you accessed any writing resources on campus? What have they been? What do you know about them? How would you go about getting like feedback on papers or writing samples, etc.?
Yeah, that's a really good question because I like you said, Sarah, I do like a lot of writing. At least with mine is mostly about like taking a case study from like an article or anything like some journal that had research on it and then like talking about it and comparing two countries and all these different things. And my biggest resource honestly is the TAs. I'm really lucky to be able to be in a major where a lot of the TAs are very like really willing, and almost all of them, I would say all of them, are always willing to help you. And it's just kind of building that rapport with them, asking questions during discussion, just kind of building that rapport really, and then asking them if they can like look over your writing. A lot of times they will say yes, as long as like it's not like a bunch of things. If you're more like concise, that's like the biggest tip I would say is like be a little bit more concise with what you're looking for. If you're asking them like, hey, is this argument solid, or is this like, does it make sense, like does this point make sense, a lot of times giving them a really like pinpointed question really really does help them, because they are at the end of the day students as well. And so they'll really, really help you with your writing skills. And then also talking to your professors, they might seem a little intimidating, but they're like not that bad actually. They're actually really sweet if you really like just get to know them and like go to their office hours. A lot of times they're, I don't want to say desperate, but like they're always looking for like students to go to their like office hours. And so when you show up and you're like, hey, I have like a really specific question, or if you're like, I don't really have a specific question, I just really want to know if like this like mind jumble of ideas makes sense, and I actually like one of my professors, love her to death, like love that woman. She was someone that I would go to and just be like, I don't understand labor, like am I getting this right? And so that's always the best resource, is just going to the source. Another way, as like Darlene said, is like the undergraduate writing center. That's always a great source. They're also students, so sometimes they'll like, oh yeah, labor studies. Sorry, yeah, like the like international like division of labor and like all that, and like talking about remittances. Anyways, all that stuff. But it's really fun. So not like the other labor. But it's really cool, and just going to the source, talking to people, talking to other students too is a really great source, I would say. Sometimes when you both are like struggling together, like you'll come up with great ideas. But yeah, just like connecting. Yeah.
Yeah, I would add on to what Miriam said. I know like when I just started, I had to take this English course and I was really nervous to go to my professor's office hours. But then by the end, we were like, yay, writing, researching. So we pumped each other up at the end. So I feel like it is a bit intimidating at first when you're meeting with the professor for the first time and you're like, I don't know how this is going to go, but you have to have some goals in mind if you are going to ask them some questions. And Miriam is right. The teachers do like to socialize. They love to get to know their students. I know like with the professor's email I just sent in the chat, I met her one time for office hours and she literally just said like, I love getting to know my students. I love getting to hear what their experience has been like. And it's so cool because she was a transfer student as well. So she really does like love to get to know her students, and she is a really cool professor. And I would say, like, I think with the undergrad writing center, they do ask you, like, what are your goals for this assignment? Like, what do you hope to accomplish besides having a good grade? So it definitely gives you an understanding of, like, what skills you want to work on in terms of being a stronger writer.